And so, upon the creation of the English translation of Ace Attorney, objection became the most widely used word in the English language. Wait a sec. This is a manga.
There's a series I've been playing a lot lately. It's the Ace Attorney series. It seemed pretty good, so I thought I'd try it out, and now the franchise has easily moved up to being one of my favorites. What makes it so awesome, you ask? Well, it's the music, the story, the graphics, and of course, the characters. With every great series, there's bound to be great characters, and Ace Attorney has some awesome ones, especially the attorneys and prosecutors, and that's exactly what I'm here to talk about. Now, I'll be judging each character by the following: their backstory, their role in the game, how well they do their job, and other miscellaneous things such as that. And also, there will be spoilers on this list. Like, a lot for the entire series. So if you don't want to be spoiled, then I suggest you leave this video immediately. And finally, despite me not playing the game, I will be including characters from Dual Destinies on this list. Hey, if Speedster can get a pass on including the Thousand Year Door on his favorite games list but only have played 2 chapters into the game, then I think I should be able to include characters from a game that I only viewed a walkthrough on. After all, the games are practically visual novels. So now, I'm very pleased to say, let's get started.
Your Honor, the defense was born ready.
Objection!
To start off the attorney's side of this list, we have Kristoff Gavin. This is quite a strange choice to be starting off with, but I'll explain why. Kristoff Gavin was Apollo Justice's mentor at the Gavin Law Offices, so at least we know his relation with Apollo. He's also the brother of Apollo's rival prosecutor, Klavier Gavin. But the main reason why he's this low on the list is because he's more of a villain than an attorney, but an attorney nonetheless. He also has this grudge against Phoenix Wright for whatever reason. He does this purposefully by giving Wright falsified evidence during Zach Gammarai's trial, causing Wright to lose his attorney's badge. He then went on to kill Shady Smith, who was Zach in reality, and put the blame on Wright, and also debuting Apollo's court career. And later, in that same trial, Kristoff was found to be the real murderer. But it wasn't until the final case in Apollo Justice that Kristoff would show his face again. He's been in solitary confinement the entire time between the second case and the fourth one, and Kristoff was up to more dastardly deeds yet again because he's the one that killed the victim in the case, Drew Misham. And he's also the one that poisoned the defendant, Vera Misham. But I will give Kristoff points because he plotted the murder 7 years in advance. Quite clever thinking on Kristoff's part by putting very lethal poison on a stamp that will go unused for 7 long years. Also, more points awarded all over the fucking place for planning Vera's poisoning in advance too, by giving her the poisonous nail polish as a good luck charm. Basically, when Vera's nervous, she bites on her nails, and when you ingest poison that's on your nails, we've got a problem. And I'd say for an Ace Attorney boss, he's one of the best considering all the time travel you have to go through in order to find the truth. And finally, once you get back to the fourth case and play as Apollo, after a lengthy battle in court and his saying of owning the same nail polish does not a murderer make, it's pretty damn satisfying to see Kristoff give one of the best breakdowns in the series, being right up there with Manfred von Karma's Inferio Tigres. And speaking of his breakdown, let's face it, it's practically a combination of Kristoff going Super Saiyan and finding out that Wright just died while on a stealth mission. So it's pretty nice to see this guy lose his cool after being called the coolest defense attorney in the West. But him not having that much of a backstory and being present very little throughout the game is what causes him to be so low on the list. Personally, I'd like to have a DLC case of one of Kristoff's trials to see how he works in court, but that's just me. Overall, even though Kristoff is one of the best villains in the series, I can't put him higher than number 5. But he gets included because even though there are only 4 playable defense attorneys, Kristoff's such a badass that I can make an exception, thus placing him at number 5.
The prosecution is also ready.
Objection!
And on the prosecutor side of the list, we have the fool who foolishly thought she could beat Phoenix Wright but was such a foolishly foolish fool to think so, Franziska von Karma. Let me say that I really don't like Franziska that much. She's Manfred von Karma's daughter who began prosecuting at the young age of 13, and she carries a whip around with her all the fucking time. And she really is like her father in many ways. Always wants a guilty verdict? Check. Went undefeated as a prosecutor until they faced Phoenix Wright in court? Check. Are absolute assholes about things? Check. Got shot in the shoulder? Check! But like I said not 5 seconds ago, she is a complete asshole about things. She's always whipping you, Gumshoe, and even the judge and gets away with it. And she thinks she's superior to you just because she went undefeated for 5 years. But we do get some backstory on her. Only some, though. She was born and raised in Germany by her father, Manfred, and was Edgeworth's stepsister. Like I said earlier, she began prosecuting at age 13, and that's all we know about her. I mean, come on, Capcom. She was the main prosecutor in Justice for All, and was involved a lot in the final case of Trials and Tribulations, and she was even a partner in the Investigations game, but we still hardly know anything about her other than the previous facts mentioned. But I will give Franziska one thing. She's not a complete and utter fucking bastard as her asshole of a father, Manfred. But she holds a grudge against Phoenix that doesn't really get explained, and she's pretty damn crude to Edgeworth, even though she's his stepsister. Really, Franziska?
Your Honor, the defense was born ready.
Objection!
Yep, next up we have the attorney that practically started it all, Mia Fey. Mia's backstory is quite interesting, to say the least. She was originally an occupant of Karain Village and was a pretty gifted spirit medium. And she was also the daughter of the master of the Karain channeling technique, Misty Fey. But because of an event known as the DL6 incident where the police used a spirit medium to catch the criminal in that crime, they failed to capture the real criminal and the police were mocked far and wide. This caused Misty to go into hiding and not reveal herself for 18 years. And that's the reason why Mia became a lawyer in the first place, to catch the person who humiliated her mother. That eventually did happen, but not before Mia was killed by that same fucker, Red White. Also as a nice touch, in the first and fourth cases of Trials and Tribulations, you play as Mia when she first started attorneying. But she's also Phoenix's mentor and often helps him out when all hope seems lost. It's mostly through Maya and Pearl via channeling, but still, it's nice to know that Mia's still alive and is willing to help Phoenix out when he's in a tight spot. Also, going back to those cases where she's playable, her very first opponent, who was also new at the time, was the one and only Miles Edgeworth. And also at this time, she was dating Diego Armando, aka Godot. But it's because of Mia that Phoenix was able to win all the trials that he was in through her method of thinking outside the box. Did I forget to mention that she's also the sister of Maya Fey? Because she is. Also, it's not that hard to notice that she's hot. But as a downside, because she helps Phoenix so much, hell, she tagged along with you for the second half of the third case in the first game, this is what causes her to be lower. But I guess if it wasn't for her, Phoenix would never have even beaten Von Karma. Also, I suppose if it wasn't for Mia, the Phoenix Wright games wouldn't exist. So yeah.
The prosecution is also ready.
Objection!
Oh yeah, baby, it's Klavier Gavin. Klavier is that how you say it? Maybe it's Klavier because he grew up in Germany, but that sounds more French. How the fuck do you pronounce this guy's name?
I believe the correct pronunciation to be Klavier.
Thanks. Anyway, Klavier is the younger brother of Kristoff Gavin and is also the lead singer of his own band, the Gaviners. He started both prosecuting and his band in the same year, where their song, 13 Years Hard Time for Love, went platinum overnight. And his first trial was against Phoenix Wright, where Klavier won. This is also the trial where Phoenix lost his attorney's badge because of the falsified evidence. But also, fun fact about the Gaviners, all of the members of the band are involved in law enforcement in some way, with Gavin being a prosecutor and his friend Darian Crescent being a detective. Also, I can't go without mentioning this guy's main theme. Guilty Love was probably one of the best songs in the entire series. Just listen to this shit. Pretty fucking awesome, isn't it? But even though Klavier is one awesome prosecutor, he's lower on this list because he's more friendly towards Apollo than he should be as far as Ace Attorney goes. I like to see the main prosecutors of the games as either anti-heroes or flat-out villains. Edgeworth, anti-hero. Franziska von Karma, more of a villainous anti-hero. Godot, complete villain. Klavier, your friend. But I suppose it's quite nice to know that the prosecution is on your side, even though you're supposed to be at each other's throats until no one can yell objection anymore, but still. And also, we don't really know too much about Klavier other than he grew up in Germany, he's Kristoff's younger brother, and he sings his own band. I personally would like to know why he became a prosecutor in the first place. Is it to find the truth? Is it to promote your own band while in court so you can get more money? Is it just to be a flat-out asshole? Some clarification would be nice, and I'd like to know more about his life while he was in Germany. Also, I felt as if he could have been used more in Dual Destinies, as he only popped up at various times in Turnabout Academy. I kinda wish he could have been used as a prosecutor more than just your tag-along friend to help you find shit and talk about how he was once part of the Gaviners. But he's still pretty badass overall, and I love the names that he gives to the people around him, especially Apollo, calling him Hair Forehead. But even with his humorous nicknames, he could definitely be better.
Your Honor, the defense was born ready.
Objection! Yes, I like Apollo Justice more than Mia Fey. Some of you may be thinking, this is total bullshit! Apollo Justice sucked! You don't even play as Phoenix Wright during that game! To which I respond, it's my opinion, I feel as if it's overhated, and for pretty much half of the fourth case you play as Phoenix. You even play in a trial with the music from the first game against Klavier Gavin. But I do find Apollo to be an enjoyable little squirt of an attorney with him shouting, "I'm fine" all the goddamn time. Just imagine when you're in a situation when you're just a little bit confused and you yell, "I'm fine."
What the hell? Are you sure you're playing Skyward Sword right? I'm fine! Jeez, people.
Also, I just absolutely love how Apollo gets called a demon because of his hair, another entertaining factor on Apollo's part. And you know how Phoenix has his magatama to see into people's hearts to know when they're lying? Well, Apollo has something similar to that. He has a bracelet that tightens when somebody is telling a lie. I personally think this is better than the magatama because it's fun to see what types of things people unknowingly do when they're lying in their testimony. And the backstory behind Apollo was quite unexpected when it was revealed. So basically, Phoenix's adopted daughter Trucy was the child of Zach Gamurai, who was married to Thalasso, or better known by her stage name, Lamiror. But she was married before that to an unknown man, and those two had a son. And you'll never believe who that son was. Yes, it's Apollo. So all this time, Apollo has been with his half-sister on these investigations to find the murderer of the victims in each case. But wait, if Trucy and Apollo are half-brother and half-sister, and Phoenix is Trucy's adoptive daughter, then that means Apollo is, by law, Phoenix's son. But Apollo does get some points for the comic relief that's present throughout both Apollo Justice and Dual Destinies. Speaking of Dual Destinies, I like that in this game, more things get revealed about Apollo, even though they may be very few. We find out that Apollo was childhood friends with the victim in Case 4, Clay Terran, who, just like Apollo, had no mother. So this brought them together, and they were friends since. And this is what causes Apollo to do an investigation on his own during the 5th case. However, I wish that Capcom would reveal why Justice became a lawyer in the first place. But I guess you can't please them all. Overall, even though Apollo may be one of the funniest characters in the series, along with the judge and Detective Gumshoe, he still could have more of a backstory revealed on him. But Apollo still remains to be awesome, and that's why he's number 3.
The prosecution is also ready.
Objection! Yes, the great Miles Edgeworth is only number 3. Even though Edgeworth may be one of the most badass characters in any video game, there are definitely better prosecutors in the series. For one thing, you even play as Edgeworth while he's a defense attorney in the first part of Bridge to the Turnabout. But that's not to say that Edgeworth isn't still fucking awesome, because he is. Edgeworth is a cool, British, and just flat out awesome character over so many things. One of these things includes his backstory. Edgeworth was the son of an esteemed lawyer, Gregory Edgeworth. But during a case, he faced Manfred von Karma and lost, but he managed to do the unthinkable and put a penalty on von Karma's record. This caused von Karma to be depressed and not work for a while. After the trial, Edgeworth was in the elevator with his father and Yanni Yogi, a bailiff of the court. Then Gregory and Yanni got into an argument, and scared, Edgeworth threw a gun and blacked out shortly after that. And for 15 years, Edgeworth thought he himself had committed patricide, but it was really that bastard von Karma who killed Gregory. After that, von Karma took Edgeworth in as his adoptive son. And Von Karma, being the prosecutor he is, he raised Edgeworth to become a prosecutor instead of a defense attorney like Edgeworth had originally planned to be. And Edgeworth followed Von Karma into the path of everyone getting a guilty verdict. See, this is the type of scumbaggery that I can't fucking stand. But after being in the defendant's chair himself, Edgeworth soon realized what being a prosecutor is really about. And that's also something I love about Edgeworth. He first went off following Von Karma's bullshit views and facing Mia Fey as a first opponent, but the verdict ending in, well, nothing because the defendant killed himself before his not guilty verdict could be handed down, to facing Phoenix Wright and losing to him during all their encounters, and finally waking up and realize that it's about finding the truth no matter how horrible it may be. But we get even more story about Edgeworth revealed to us. The developers down at Capcom were probably all like, "Hey, Edgeworth is so fucking popular. Let's create a game to print us more money for all the Edgeworth fanboys out there where the characters are just lazily mirrored when they appeared on the opposite side that they normally appear. Ha ha ha!" So yeah. Anyways, what Edgeworth was doing shortly after Trials and Tribulations was investigating the various murders and events all relating to the great thieves known as the Yatagarasu. And Ace Attorney Investigations was so popular that Capcom decided to make a sequel that has yet to be released outside of Japan, and is currently being translated into English by the fans of the series. But even as awesome as Edgeworth is, he can't really be higher than number 3 because he sometimes helps Phoenix when he's supposed to be the enemy. But Edgeworth is still awesome and is one of the best anti-heroes in gaming.
Your Honor, the defense was born ready.
Objection!
Yes, Athena Sykes makes it up high on my list. She has one of the most interesting backstories out of all the characters in the series, and she's pretty damn likable as a character with her silly anime-style scenes in the cutscenes. Okay, that one scene, but still. Athena has a special ability to hear the mood of people just by the sound of their voice. That's pretty awesome to me. And just like how Phoenix, Apollo, and Edgeworth have something to help them deduce people's statements, Athena has Widget, which helps her with people's emotions. You've got happy, sad, angry, and surprised. The way that this works is that Athena uses Widget to review what people said and points out the emotion that stands out the most in the saying. Also, along with Maya, Pearl, and Trucy, Athena is quite adorable. Though not as much as Pearl, but still. Also, we get some light on why Athena became a lawyer in the first place, which is quite nice. Athena grew up in the Gaxa space station with her mother, Metis Sykes. But because of her special hearing ability, she was overloaded with the emotions around her. After that, she became friends with Juniper Woods, who was in a similar position with missing many days of school because of their problems. So the two became best friends. But when Athena was 11, her mother was killed by the Phantom. But prosecutor Simon Blackquill took the fall because he wanted to protect Athena. And then Simon was put on death row because of these things, but still was allowed to prosecute. And this is where Athena's reasoning comes into place. She became a defense attorney just so she could get Simon acquitted of all charges. Though maybe the strangest reason of all to become a defense attorney, it definitely shows how much Athena actually cares for Blackquill. And she studied analytical psychology while she was in Europe. And that's where she met Phoenix and was told that her methods could be an effective use against others in court. So she went on to join the Wright Anything agency and went on to relieve Blackquill of his charges of murder. My only problem is that she's playable only in the third case of Dual Destinies, but maybe, just maybe, one day, we'll get Athena Sykes, Ace Attorney. Yeah, that'll be awesome. Anyways, her being more playable would have given her much more of a reason to be number 1. But there can only be one truly great defense attorney. But not before revealing my number 2 prosecutor.
The prosecution is also ready.
Silence!
Yep, Simon Blackquill beats out Edgeworth. But I couldn't really help myself but to just love Blackquill. I mean, this guy is a freaking badass. He's a samurai-loving convict who has a pet hawk. Wait a sec. He's a convict? Yes, Simon was found guilty of murder and was sentenced to death, but was still allowed to prosecute so he could catch the Phantom, the real murderer behind that case. Like I said, he took the fall for Athena Sykes to protect her from seeming guilty because he's the one who thought she killed her own mother. And I just love how he plays mind games with his court opponents. He makes it seem like he's on your side, but he's really not. And his tactics in court, other than psychological tricks, are threatening and intimidating people with death. Because, you know, he's a false convict. And when he breaks out of his chains, it basically screams, "You're fucked." Also, he has quite the backstory. Not everything gets explained, but what does is quite interesting. He's the younger brother of Cosmos Space Center robotics engineer Aura Blackquill, And he also seems to share a strong relationship with Athena because he was good friends with her mother. He also has a freaking hawk that brings him evidence and attacks the defense and even the witness. That's pretty freaking awesome. And I can say that this guy has the best freaking objection in the entire series. I mean, just listen to this shit!
Objection!
Isn't it fucking awesome? And this guy is basically all three main prosecutors from the Phoenix Wright trilogy rolled into one. He's a cool talking British guy like Edgeworth, he hurts people in court and gets away with it like Franziska, and is quite poetic with many terms like Godot. And he's got some Klavier Gavin in him because he calls people by different names. Your baldness? Foolbright? Who the hell comes up with this stuff? It's genius! Though if there were a couple of negative things to say, which are pretty much just nitpicks, is that I would have liked to see him as a younger prosecutor in the court and have seen him outside the court, say in the detention center, and also have more of a backstory revealed about him. And finally, perhaps a DLC case can be added in the future with Blackquill as a prosecutor, but not have him as a prisoner and rather a free man. But that's really all I can say negatively. Also, I can say that Blackquill is basically one big fuck you to all traditional samurai stuff out there and completely annihilates everything else that follows through with his katana. So Blackquill is the most badass character aside from the next two entries. So, let's find out who they are.
Your Honor, the defense was born ready.
Who do you think? Yes, it's quite predictable that Phoenix is my favorite defense attorney, but I mean, come on, who doesn't love Phoenix Wright? He's the person you play as from the start and ultimately brings the untouchable criminal to justice. And we also get a nice explanation throughout the games as to why Phoenix became an attorney and what being an attorney means to him. So basically it starts like this. First of all, Phoenix's childhood is pretty relatable. He was friends with Edgeworth and Larry Butts, and when Phoenix was accused of stealing Edgeworth's money, Edgeworth himself came to his defense, thus starting the friendship of the two. And years later, Phoenix began to date Dahlia Hawthorne, but later found out that she wanted him dead, but also later found out that he only met the real Dahlia twice and he was really dating her twin sister Iris. And in that case, which was Mia's second case, she finally caught up to Dahlia and gave her the punishment she oh so deservingly deserved. Death! After Mia successfully defended Phoenix, this is what made him believe in his clients to the bitter end. And you have to give Phoenix some credit. He went against so many people over the course of 3 years that he's practically a legend. He took down that bastard von Karma, the evil actor Mad on Guard, and in an unfortunate way, Godot. And we can't fail to mention that because of Phoenix, we all have the famous finger-pointing objection gag to go on. Seriously, when someone says something to you that you don't agree with, just point your finger and yell out objection and see what happens.
So the Metal Gear Solid games are great, as we all know.
Yes, they certainly are.
But as we all know, Guns of the Patriots is obviously the best.
Objection! But Snake Eater is truly the greatest MGS game.
Objection! But MGS4 ties up all the ends of the series and has one of the most emotional endings ever.
But MGS3 is what started the series off and paves the way extremely well for the rest of the series.
Can't we just all agree that the MGS series is awesome and all the games in the series are equally as epic as each other?
I guess.
Great. Just leave it at that.
Phoenix is also one of the other funniest characters in the series because of his reactions to things like people commenting on his hair and how spiky it is. Back to the seriousness of this entry, Phoenix has made so many friends and enemies over the years that it's practically impossible. Defeating Edgeworth for the first time and then Wright defending him, causing Edgeworth to realize the truth of what being a prosecutor means to him, making Godot realize the truth and it was him who was behind the whole time, and helping Blackquill just barely fucking escape from the freezing hand of death. And I can't fail to mention the famous Magatama where Phoenix has the ability to see into people's hearts when they're keeping secrets. There's even 2 cases where the locks of people's hearts are black and they just look freaking awesome. And hell, the guy worked with Professor Layton. Okay, maybe I haven't played a Layton game yet, but still, Professor motherfucking Layton! There is not one single character who can defeat Phoenix when it comes to their awesome and epicness, and total ability to make the extremely boring career of law look badass. Except for one Ace Attorney character.
The prosecution is also ready.
And now, after all this time, I'm ready to reveal not only my favorite prosecutor, and not only my favorite Ace Attorney character, but my favorite video game character of all time. And that person is Winston Payne! You guys really think that Winston Payne is my favorite prosecutor? It's Godot! Who else is it gonna be? do I even begin with Godot? First of all, Godot is a white-haired, coffee-addicted badass who wears a visor just so he can see. And out of all the Ace Attorney characters, Godot is probably the one we know the most about. For appearing in just 3 cases of Trials and Tribulations, we get a hell of a ton revealed to us about just who Godot is. He was originally a defense attorney and the lover of Mia Fey, known as Diego Armando. But after the 4th case in Trials and Tribulations, he tried to hunt down Dahlia Hawthorne and get an interview with her because he knew the truth behind the murdering of Valerie Hawthorne. But then she poisoned him and he fell into a coma and was asleep for 6 years. But then he awoke to the smell of coffee, only to find out his lover had been murdered. You think you've had shitty days? Well, yours is nothing compared to what shit Godot has gone through the day he woke up from his coma. He found out that her protege, Phoenix Wright, has solved the case and got the killer arrested, but he was still pissed about it and made sure that Wright felt his pain. And the grudge between Wright and Godot is hilarious. He purposefully mispronounces Phoenix's name as Trite, and he throws coffee at him when it's necessary. And I also just absolutely love how poetic Godot is at points, making coffee-related metaphors that no one else understands and coming up with his own saying about things. Blacker than the moonless night, hotter and more bitter than hell itself. That is coffee. Fucking awesome! And his character development throughout the 5th case is just fantastic. This is the case that more and more things get revealed about Godot than any other case. And also, it's so damn satisfying yet extremely tear-jerking to see Godot finally come down as the killer. Seriously, whenever I had to accuse Godot as the killer in that case, I was extremely hesitant on doing so. He's just that damn awesome to me. Just everything gets revealed about him. Why his hair is white, why he wears that visor on his face, why he even became a prosecutor in the first place. It was because of the murder of Mia Fey that caused him to become a prosecutor just so he could face off against Phoenix for that particular final moment of the 5th case. Though I would like to know why he drinks 17 cups of coffee per trial. And you can't help but sympathize with him about all the shit he's gone through. Also, he had a pretty damn good reason to kill Misty Fey, because he thought she was Dahlia Hawthorne and wanted to stop her from harming Maya. And another thing that gets explained is why he is oblivious to something as obvious as red on a white background. This being a key point as to proving that Godot was the murderer. I'm serious when I say that quite literally everything, well, almost everything, gets explained about Godot. And you can't help but want to cry on one of his most famous sayings, "In my world, the color red doesn't exist. These must be my tears." Godot, thanks for being my favorite prosecutor and my new most favorite video game character of all time. I will forever remember you as the badass coffee drinker who has the best prosecuting skills to ever be in existence.
I'm Randiesel27, and if the music that played during Ace Attorney started randomly playing during court trials, then that would make me want to drop everything and become a lawyer.